start the recording on this. And John, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Marika. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Kivlan. I'm an engineer with the City of Syracuse, working on the mill and pave project for both Salina and State Street. As Marika explained, we've been having the bi-weekly meetings talking about both the paving project and other projects that are going to occur downtown. We requested to have this meeting with the business owners and residents of the 300 and 400 block because we've noticed that we have to do significant more pavement repairs in those two blocks that we'd anticipated when we started the project. Also, on this meeting too, I've got representatives from CNS engineers. They're our design consultant and doing the inspection during construction, so they're also in this meeting. Let's say the condition of the pavement in both blocks is a concern to us. We have secured additional funds. Initially, we're just going to do a mill and pave treatment for those two blocks. Unfortunately, due to the water work last year, the pavement condition is severely deteriorated in the remaining sections of pavement. The 300 block is worse than the 400 block. And so right now we're looking at two different treatment options. For the 400 block, we're going to go with a deeper mill and pave, which will be a 2-course mill and overlay from curb to curb. For the 300 block, we've identified that we have to do full pavement reconstruction. So that's box out from curb to curb, approximately 2 feet of the existing pavement, and reconstruct the pavement back up to grade. So that's what's required for the pavement treatment. The reason we're having this meeting is to discuss work zone traffic control options, how we stage the construction and how we handle the traffic. At all times, the sidewalks will stay open. If the sidewalks do have to get shut down, that will just be for the 88 corner reconstruction. And we provide detours around those shutdowns and coordinate them logically so that we don't shut down a pedestrian route from one side to the other. To now talk about the actual how we stage the construction. For the 400 block, which would be from Jefferson to Onondaga, we're discussing a 1-lane shutdown. So we take from the center line over to one of the curb lanes, close that off to all vehicular traffic. On the remaining section of pavement, we believe we can maintain 1 lane of traffic and 1 lane of parking. So for the 400 block, we still have to determine which direction. And I said, after I've finished talking, CNS has some sketches they can share some of these options. So for the 400 block, we believe we can provide parking and 1 lane of traffic. We provide a detour for the lane of traffic for the traffic that we shut down. We provide a detour either using Clinton or Warren, depending on which direction we shut down. For the 300 block, as explained, the 300 block requires more extensive repairs. It said box out, excavate up to 2 feet of the existing pavement surface. Due to that depth requirements, our preferred option is to shut down the 300 block. Talking to our contractor after last week's meeting, he believes that if he was given 3 weeks with a shutdown for that block, he could be out of there and have it reconstructed back to a suitable condition where we can put parking and traffic back onto it. That's a 3-week shutdown.
3 weeks, not 2.
Yeah, not 2. And that was just after, I mean, the initial 2 weeks was what we assumed it would be. After talking to our contractor after the meeting, he said 3 weeks. So that's where we're at. Those are our 2 options. They said the 400 block, we believe that option of shutting down, detouring, but still providing parking and a live lane of traffic will probably satisfy the 400 block. The 300 block, again, due to the depth of repairs, it's not possible to do a configuration like we're doing in the 400 block, just because we have to cut down 2 feet. You have to maintain a shoulder from live traffic to that excavation. So we couldn't provide parking. But again, the quickest way, and it may sound counterintuitive, less disruptive, is to go in, shut it down for 3 weeks and get out of everybody's way. If we try to stage it, we're going to be out there longer. you're gonna have more construction activity. And just to give you a heads up, I mean, this is not the final stage of construction. After all these repairs are done, we still have to do the top course mill and pave, and that will come later during the summer. And that will provide the final riding surface. And after that, we do striping and other ancillary construction to complete. So there will be another major phase of construction, which will be the top course mill and pave. So I said I have CNS on the call. They do have some sketches if they want to share those sketches. And then maybe just have a question and answers, hear the business residents owners concerns, take those into consideration. You know, as I said, we presented our preferred options for both blocks. So yeah, if you have a concern afterward, CNS is done with their presentation, be specific in which block you're in, which block you're talking about, and what your specific concern is with our plan. So Dustin, if you want to share your screen and
yeah, thanks, John. Morning, everybody. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick, and I'll show you kind of the configuration for one phase of what we're proposing for the traffic on the 400 block. Can everybody see this? This is the intersection of Salina and Onondaga. So in this phase, we'd be taking what is the west side of the 400 block. And this is probably a better look at it. The work area is the orange area there on the west side. We will maintain a single lane of travel northbound under this phase, and then we'll maintain the existing parking with the existing striping and the layout that is there. So areas that are restricted from parking will maintain restricted, but all the areas that are open to parking at this point in time would stay open. So this way there's access to any of the businesses and or the post office. We'll maintain the pedestrian crossing, the mid-block crossing near the post office and the parking garage and the library there. There would probably be a day when the contractor works through this area where that area wouldn't be accessible during the day. But we're only looking at one day or part of a day to just work through any small repairs that we have at that crossing. But in general, during the time period that the contractor is in the 400 block, we will maintain that pedestrian access at the mid block. So folks who are parking on the opposite side of the street will have access to cross over to the businesses on the west side. In general, this would be the same situation in a second phase where we would shift the work area over to the east side of the roadway. And depending on what work is being done on adjacent projects, whether it be Clinton or Warren, we would detour traffic one way or the other. So that traffic would either be southbound or northbound, but there would be a single lane of traffic with parking along the shoulder in the same basic sequence that we have shown here. So in this, we're going to provide the businesses the access that hopefully that they need and the parking that they have, necessary to get people access. I don't know if there's any questions.
Dustin, I have a quick question. This is Marica from the Downtown Committee of Syracuse. So it looks like the parking lane is on, it's like the odd side, east side of the block. So is that marker in the middle like a mid-block crossing opportunity for people who have parked their cars to be able to access the other side of the street?
Correct. That's actually,
okay.
It's a signalized crossing right now.
Okay.
And it is, and we will maintain that. So
okay.
that condition will maintain the entire time. Like I said, part of a day so that we'll quickly work through that area during both phases. But in general, 95% of the time that will always be open.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, this is Martin Jacobs. If I can just ask a couple questions. We're the owners of South City Market at 484 South Salina Street.
Yeah.
I guess this is for, whoever. In relation to parking, just wondering, if there's a way during this phase, particularly if the detour is southbound, detours for Clinton Street, if there's a way to provide more parking on Clinton Street. I know you guys have been, the city's been very generous to our contractors to sort of let them park there without getting ticketed or towed or anything like that. I don't know if there's a way to make that almost more a brief period of time so that the public takes advantage of that. And then my other question for Dustin or John is, and I apologize if I missed it, just the timeline, like the amount of time. And I heard 3 weeks for the 300 block. I just didn't hear anything for the 400 block of how long this work would take to do both sides of the street.
Yeah, so I'll let John talk on the parking for Clinton Street. But as far as the time frame for this one, we're looking at 4 to 5 weeks, just because of the nature and the access to the area. We feel that 4 weeks is probably going to be enough. So 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks per se for each phase, for each half of the road. So this condition would last for 2 to 3 weeks, and then it would flip over to the other side for another couple of weeks. Some of the extended time on this is the length of the 400 block as compared to the 300. The amount of work that is here isn't quite as extensive, but there's a lot of, we talked about full depth. John talked about, taking the full thickness of the roadway all the way curb to curb. And we'll, for the 300 block to rebuild the whole block. Well, on the 400, before we can do our paving work, we need to go in and repair full depth all of those areas where the water department and other utilities have had previous repairs or patches that need to be. We're looking for a roadway condition that's going to last. So we need to box those areas out full depth. And there are a lot of those for those of you obviously who drive down there. The road has been impacted in a significant number of areas. So the number of those kind of piecemeal repairs through this area are pretty significant. Even though we're not going to take it all, we will be addressing a pretty fair portion of the roadway in a full depth manner. And so that's why there's still a pretty reasonable amount of time that they're going to be putting into these 2 phases of the 400 block. So a couple weeks per side, approximately about a month. Depending on, we're showing this is the first phase, them taking the west side. If they took the west side first, then your parking situation would be a little more difficult during that. In the second phase, after the first couple of weeks and they swap themselves over, in this condition switches to the other side, you'll have a little more parking closer to the Salt City Market in the same condition that you have now, because the parking will go back to what it was before. We'll provide that access in the same manner during the other phase when the construction area is on the east side of the 400 block. So that's the duration stuff. John, you can speak on the parking on Clinton.
Yeah, Martin, I'll take that back to the city administration about parking on Clinton Street. And I know the construction workers are parking there right now. They don't really seem to be negatively impacting the traffic down there. So I'll discuss that with the administration as to the impacts of that and how they would like to handle that request, and we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Question on like the hours of work. So luckily, as the weather's getting warmer, daylight is in our favor. What hours are the construction crews going to be working? Will they be working like more of an extended day to try to get the work completed in a quicker time frame, or what would be like the typical time you'd actually see active construction?
So active construction, the contractor usually starts to organize their men and their equipment around 6:30. Major activities are usually underway by 7 a.m. And they will usually work about a 10-hour day right now. So the contractors work through about 5:30. And at that point, they'll be off the road or out of the way. Just to reinforce what John said, pedestrian access will be maintained at all times, during these phases. so people can get up and down. But yeah, as far as, I mean, I know there's probably some concern outdoor seating, people being outside as the weather gets better. Obviously people trying to have lunch and the sound of equipment. The contractor doesn't use the quietest equipment, but they will do the best that they can to, keep things as reasonable as possible. But the movement of heavy equipment, it's not, it is what it is, unfortunately. But that time of day is generally the full scope of the working day. So from 7 to about 5:30.
Are there, just because again, like the heavy machinery and just, I mean, the amount of like dust and debris that gets kicked up, it's going to be beautiful at the finish point, but maybe not as much during the process. But is there anything built into the contracts or, could be considered as far as, ways to manage the dust and debris, thinking specifically of, I don't know what kind of outdoor dining would be happening like during construction, because it's just, you can't contain it while it's happening. But as far as, like the dirty windows or, the condition that streets are left in with dirt and debris, are there regular, cleanings of the sidewalk or the street area to help try to clean up the greater area when construction is underway?
Yeah, so when a contractor's out there and they're on hard surfaces and they're brooming, their equipment is required to have water to help cut down on the dust to do that. During the sub-base excavation portion, try to keep the stone as watered as possible when they're grading it to keep the dust down. We'll work with the contractor to use as much water as we can when it makes sense. To try to keep the dust down. We can't eliminate all of it. It's just a big area. And there will be dry days I think you'll find that we come into an area and we clean it up and it's in reasonable shape and it's things hold out for a while. And then if we move on from an area for a little bit, maybe it's been milled and traffic is on it, that's kind of when your dust situation starts to kick up. And we can do our best to try to keep those things watered and broomed as often as possible. We will provide our contact information to everybody here. I'll make sure that in any correspondence John has with you, that he gets my contact information, my phone number, and the contact information for the field staff, the field engineers that are out here. And if we find that there's issues and there are things that can be addressed, we will do our best to work and be reactive in a positive manner to meet the needs of the folks that are down there.
And thank you for that. I think that is one thing that has worked really well with past construction projects, is having your field staff, again, the door-to-door and going inside the businesses and making that connection goes a really long way to people feeling like they have the information that they need and can ask questions in real time. So that's incredibly helpful.
Fully understood.
Was there any mention, and this might be a John or Dustin question, as far as when this work that we're talking about today might start?
So the contractor currently has it on their schedule for just after the 4th of July. Based on his work progress right now, there is a possibility that could move up to the middle of June. They have some other work areas that they need to complete and get stabilized before they can get here. Obviously, this project's pretty substantial in terms of its size, and it's spread out. And so the resources right now are in some other places on the project. But as I stated, the contractor currently has it on their schedule to start after the 4th of July break.
And is this, would the 400 block go first?
I believe his intent is to do the 400 block first. Now, as far as if the businesses have a feeling that they'd like to see one happen before the other, the contractor can adjust to focus on the 300 or the 400 during a time period that's better. If there is a better time, I don't know if one is better than another. But if for some reason there is concern as to which is being done when, As long as we communicate with our contractor ahead of time, and he can plan accordingly for the type of equipment and the access that he needs, I think that they will be accommodating as best they can to work either the 300 before the 400 or vice versa, if that is a concern, or, you know, if it's to a benefit for the businesses based on timing.
Just to add on to what Dustin said, I mean, as explained, this was unanticipated construction. We had to go back and obtain additional funding, which we have now secured for this work. And when we talk about scheduling, I mean, our contractor held off on scheduling this work, knowing that additional repairs were needed. Now that we know we have funds, we can have further discussions with the contractor, and also we need to take into consideration the other construction that's planned for downtown, the other paving projects, the water department work, and to see how those projects could potentially impact this phasing. So it's still in flux. As I said, he does show, as Dustin explained, he does show it on his current schedule, but that could change depending on further discussions.
Understood. Did you build in money for an after paving party so we can celebrate this beautiful new street?
We're just hoping for a St. Patty's Day parade.
Were there questions from anybody else who've joined us this morning, or comments?
Hi, this is Heather Schroeder from the Downtown Committee. Dustin, we've had complaints from businesses in the past about placement of porta-johns along Salina during construction. And I'm wondering if it's possible to direct that placement to vacant storefronts, and we're happy to provide addresses for those locations.
Sure. So the contractor maintains a yard down near Cortland and I guess Tallman, down off of Salina, and they maintain their facilities for their laborers down there. So they will not be placing portable toilets anywhere within the project limits outside of their yard. So if you did see something of that nature, it's not something from our contract. If you think you see one or there's something out there, you're not sure whose it is, you can always contact us and we'll see if we can't facilitate finding out whose it is. But as far as our contractor will not be placing portable toilets in either of these work areas.
Great, thank you.
This is John again from the city. So, I mean, as I said, we've explained the two options. You know, as mentioned, we think that the 400 block is probably the best for most businesses in that block. It's workable, provides parking, maintains a lane of traffic, and we have a pedestrian crossing to get pedestrians from one side to the other. So I think our most interest will be in the 300 block. Any specific concerns with shutting that down? I do know last year's water department construction probably turned a lot of people off a full block closure. That work did take longer than anticipated. I'm not with the water department, so I can't explain why it took so long. But again, if we were to shut it down, we would commit to a 3-week shutdown. After that, we would open it back up to traffic. We'd be in a better position to be able to maintain traffic through that. But again, that's what we're looking for is a 3-week shutdown. But again, if there's specific concerns with that shutdown, like deliveries or some event or something, we'd like to know that so we could plan accordingly. Or if there's really negative comments, we'd like to hear those now while we continue our planning options.
And there are several businesses missing from this Zoom this morning. And so what we'll do is we will circulate this email link out the Zoom link out to all the individuals and ask them to get back to you in short order, John and city and CNS team, with any comments or concerns on the project. I know, we'd sent emails out about this meeting and then actually hand delivered notices to all of the storefronts and businesses within the target area just to make sure that they were aware of this. But again, sometimes other things come up. So we will make sure to follow up today with this recording link, asking people to watch it and then share any feedback with the city.
Thanks, Merrick. And I said I can forward you Dustin's information to include in that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Samara, is there theater terms for like last call for questions? We have the curtain opening before the meeting.
No, we just
No.
let everybody, we turn the lights back on and let everybody go home.
Well, our lights have stayed on, so, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, again. Really appreciate, the information that was shared today, but also questions from the group. Again, we'll circulate the information, and within the email that you all received, you have our downtown committee staff information, as well as contact information for John and Eric and Brianka, who are also on this call. Great. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
And just as
yeah.
Dustin mentioned, when construction does get into the 300 and 400 blocks, we will provide the information for Dustin and his team. And if you do have specific concerns, please reach out to them. They're proactive. They want to make sure that everybody's happy. We do understand it's construction. It is disruptive, but if we all work together, we can complete it a lot quicker. So please, any questions, reach out to the team.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.